Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the Holistic Living interview series. I'm your host, Michelle Rusk, and today we have another very special guest. Her name is Dr. Nancy Crowell. So welcome, Nancy, Dr. Nancy. We're so excited to have you here today. So Dr. Nancy she's a wellness and vitality expert. She helps her clients regain the vitality and health that is their birthright. Dr. Nancy is a licensed doctor of Oriental medicine. Her work emphasizes on healthy diet and balanced lifestyle that addresses hormonal balance, the gut microbiome, stress reduction, and joyful living. All very important things that I think most of us don't think about too much these days. So we're going to touch on those. Her approach is an eloquent blend of both Eastern medicine and functional nutrition. So her intention and vocation is to assist others in leading more open, authentic, and healthy lives. So thank you for being here, Dr. Nancy. I really appreciate it. All right, so I always like to begin with our speakers giving a little bit of background and a little bit of personal story about what brought you into Oriental medicine. Go ahead.
So what brought me into Oriental medicine was I actually was a yoga teacher for a very long time, and I knew that I was going to go into a health field, and I was actually going to be a chiropractor. Okay. But during that period, I started seeing an acupuncturist, and let me kind of backtrack a little bit. During that time period, I had a lot of symptoms, like hormonal symptoms. I had insomnia, I had a lot of gastrointestinal issues, I had emotional instability, and this is long-standing. And I would have considered myself during that period of time a very healthy person, right? I was a yoga teacher, I was vegetarian, I was very active, so I thought that I was doing all the right things, but yet I still didn't seem to have the quality of life that I really wanted. So when I saw my first acupuncturist, it was the first time where I felt fully seen. So all of these small symptoms, which I thought were very unrelated, all of a sudden I became aware of the fact through him talking to me that they were all very much interrelated. And that kind of shifted my mindset about what was available in terms of health. And I decided that was a better path for me. It was more in alignment with what I wanted to do in my life, because Oriental medicine addresses not just the physical body, but the body, mind, and spirit. And that was really in alignment for me. So I decided I was going to go to acupuncture school. And then it was really through the process of going to school to become a doctor of Oriental medicine that I really, I almost wish everyone could go to school for it just to learn it. And this is why I now teach it to clients, because I think it's so valuable. But, through the process of learning all this information and actually getting a different lens that I'm able to look at the world through, I started seeing how my actions, how the way I was living was actually at the root of a lot of these symptoms. So yeah, and so the way that I focus with my clients now is I focus a lot on the hormones and the gut microbiome, mostly because that is where I have found that most women need the most support. And I have found that my health has just had a night and day kind of evolution through focusing on those two.
Wow. So take us through a little bit of like a day in Oriental medicine, because I myself, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers, are not very well versed in what exactly is involved in Oriental medicine, because I think we're hearing about it more and more, but I still, I'm still a little shy on the details. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I think it really does depend on the practitioner, first of all, because, we can go to school and we all learn the same things, but we all have maybe different passions or focus. So we all learn the same. We learn how to do acupuncture, how to use herbal medicine, food therapy, a lot of adjunct therapies such as moxa and cupping, and then other kind of more, what do you call it, like lifestyle modalities such as qigong or tai chi. That being said, you could have a practitioner who just does acupuncture, right, and doesn't really utilize those other things in their practice. So I'm very passionate about food and lifestyle, so that's really my focus, right? So it's not to say that every doctor of Oriental medicine is going to have such a deep passion and knowledge around it, because that might just not be their thing. So the thing about Oriental medicine is that, so say you want a day in the life of Oriental medicine, is that no day will ever be the same, which is what makes it extremely different than Western nutrition or just allopathic medicine in general. Mm-hmm. There's no absolutes. There's no so this is good and this is bad. Everything is relative.
Yeah.
And it's really based on natural law. So natural law is the 5 elements, which is based off of seasons, and also what's called yin and yang theory. So I'm sure a lot of our viewers might be familiar with the 90s symbol that was really popular, the black and white, right?
Yeah.
But all of life can be essentially categorized into yin or yang, and it's very relative to one another. So the moon and the sun are, for instance, very yin and yang. The sun is yang, the moon is yin. One cannot exist without the other, right? So black would be yin, white would be yang, but everything's relative. So everything in life can be broken down into these same things. So if you take, for instance, the American culture, okay, that is a very yang culture. Yang culture is very like driven, focused, go, 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 go. And that's why so many people are out of balance, because we want balance in order to have health. Yeah. If we were a more balanced culture, we would also cultivate more yin things, which would be meditation, contemplation, rest, these things that more Eastern cultures typically do promote, even though they're moving more in a Western way now. So that's kind of the basis of Oriental medicine. And then the five elements, which is based off of Taoism, which is not a religion, but it's a way of looking at life. And that's based on the seasons. So there's 4 seasons in most people's minds, but in Oriental medicine, there's actually 5 seasons. So there's spring, which is the element of wood. There's summer, which is the element of fire. Then there's late summer, which is the element earth. And then there's fall, which is the element of metal. And then there's winter, which is the element of water. So basically, all of these things, it can sound really overwhelming when you're starting to think about it, but we need to be living in harmony with these seasons. In order for our body to be in harmony. So there's kind of certain things that you do in each season, there's certain foods that you eat, there's certain practices that you do, and that creates a natural rhythm in life. And unfortunately, in modern life, we've become very detached from this, even though it's a very natural thing, because we live in our, heated square boxes in the winter time, and then we go to our heated cars, and then we go to our heated office, right? So we don't have that connection to the elements, versus historically we would have known it was cold and we would have responded, very naturally to those things. So that, I guess does that make sense? It's very changeable, I guess.
Yeah, but I think that it's lovely to think of it in that way, because you're right. In today's day and age, how you put it, like we go from our heated houses to our heated cars, everything is kind of done for us in a way. Yeah. So, and that's part part of the reason why I'm doing this series, and I'm so happy to have you too, is because a lot of us, I think, have really forgotten how to listen to our body's instincts. You know, we've forgotten to tune into, we're so busy. Everybody's so busy. I have 4 kids. I get it. You know, it's like crazy, but it is really important. And unfortunately, it takes a lot of us to get to that tipping point where we're sick. You know, that's what happened to me. Like, I got to that tipping point where I got sick, and I got sick of it, you know, sick of being sick. And I started shifting my lifestyle over to a more holistic lifestyle. So I think you bring up such good points, and Oriental medicine, I mean, that's beautiful. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and something that you said that you said so many of people are sick, right? And it wasn't until you reached that tipping point until you decided to respond on it. I think that is the case for most individuals. And what I love about Oriental medicine is it actually empowers the individual to practice a preventative form of medicine as well. And I know that it's kind of a new concept for most people. Most people kind of have this mentality of like, don't fix it till it's broken. But if we can, health is easier to maintain than it is to restore. So if you're able to learn these skills to maintain your health and regain balance before you're at this kind of detrimental place, you end up having a lot easier time. Because what most people don't understand is that most symptoms, whether like no matter how minor, right, like the headache, the little bit of gas, all of these things that are very livable are actually the body's way of communicating with you that something is not right. And unfortunately, we're not taught, because our parents don't know and all this sort of society doesn't know, but we're not taught to know how to respond to these ways of our body communicating to us. So the average person has a headache and they take an Advil, or they have some gas and bloating and they think, oh well, or so there's no getting to the root of the issue. There's more masking of the symptoms happening. And then what happens is the longer you don't listen to your body's communication, that's when you reach the tipping point where your body's screaming, listen to me, you have to listen to me. Yeah. And then eventually people have to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, and for some people that's really, really sick. For some people, it's in the hospital sick. Like by the time somebody, typically in our day and age, is diagnosed with celiac disease, they have full blown, and they are so sick because they're so malnourished. So, but there are so many signs before that yes, we really need to start paying attention to our body. So now I want to switch gears and go into a little bit about gut and gut health and why it's so important, because I learned that. So share that with us.
Yeah, so in Oriental medicine, there's kind of 3 different, all of the elements in the organ systems are very important, but you'll see oftentimes the elements with the earth element in the center, and they use this as well for feng shui. And the earth element has to do with digestion. So the associated organs to the earth element are the spleen and the stomach. And the basis behind it is if we don't have proper digestion, then we're not going to be assimilating our foods, and we're not going to be able to have basically a free flow of energy elsewhere. So I've taken that kind of concept and I've just started to go kind of a little bit more functional, in that I do functional lab testing with a lot of clients and then really focus on the microbiome that way. But you'll see that oftentimes if the gut health is not where it should be at, people will have skin disorders, they'll have a lot of emotional disturbances, anxiety, depression, lack of energy. There's a lot besides just people, when they think gut health, oh my gut is fine, I poop every day, I don't have any gas or bloating, but there's so much more to the gut health than just digestion. So typically if someone comes with me with any really chronic long-standing problem, I'll look to the gut
froze. Hang on, everybody.
And, with digestion as a base, we're really not going to regain that vitality that we need.
Yeah.
And so the other thing is, as I was saying, that we, in Oriental medicine, we really eat with the seasons. And one of the main things for a healthy gut is to make sure that you are diversifying your vegetables enough. The average person, I think, eats a very limited variety of vegetables. So, we might have our 10 favorites and we pretty much just stick to those. The more diversity we have in our diet, the healthier our gut flora. So that's kind of the more Oriental aspect. If you're actually eating with the seasons and you're eating what would be in season, it almost forces you to diversify what you're eating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess that really, really makes sense, because I had a personal experience. We grow a garden in our backyard, and we typically just do like a spring and a summer garden. Mm-hmm. But I can definitely say that when I eat the vegetables out of my garden, there is a different feeling. There's a different sense of, I don't know, like health, I guess, that I get from it. I was actually thinking it was more of a mental, kind of a mental thing, but that's kind of a real thing, is what I'm getting out of what you're saying.
Well, yeah, and besides the fact that you're eating with the seasons during that time, you're also getting more vitality. So, every living thing has life force. And so when you're growing your own plants, so you're growing your own food, you're getting that life force immediately after you're cutting it, right? Things that have been in the store for a long time have been sitting for months before you're getting it. So that life force, even though it's obviously better than processed foods, it's become somewhat depleted. And then also, if you're growing your own food, you're getting a little bit of those microorganisms from the soil. So I mean, in general, when we can grow our own food, we're getting so much more than just, the positive feeling of growing it. We get, more life force. We get the little microorganisms that help our gut health. And in general, I just think homegrown food feels more vital.
Yeah, and they taste better.
Yeah.
They really, really do. They taste better. So if any of you have never grown a garden, I would definitely say now is it's a great time to start.
Yeah.
So when we were talking about the gut, you did mention like emotional disturbances. What kind of emotional disturbances, might you see if your gut is out of balance?
So I think this really depends on the individual, but so this is not based on just Oriental medicine. This is also like a more functional medicine view of gut health. But so when we have an imbalanced gut flora, it creates an imbalance in the pH in the gut. So what happens is when there's an imbalance in the pH, it creates laxicity in the cell lining. So little fissures. So the cells are like little soldiers lined up side by side. When there becomes laxicity, there's space for things that should be going through the gut to leach out into the blood. Okay, so this is what then causes inflammation, which everyone's like, oh, I have inflammation. Where did it come from? Number one cause of inflammation is your gut. Probably secondary is environmental, but I would always look at the gut first. Yeah. So when we have this inflammation, we have an the blood goes everywhere in the body, right? So the blood goes to the brain as well. So when we have any sort of inflammatory response in the brain, it can cause different emotional disturbances. So I think that is really very individual, but you'll see anxiety, depression, I would say even autism, schizophrenia. I mean, it can really range from just kind of something that's completely livable to something that's very debilitating. Wow. So yeah, I think that when someone starts to address their gut health, they automatically just start to feel better. I've had many women who are my clients come off, depression medications from healing their gut. And that's just because, when you start to actually nourish your body and you start to decrease that inflammation, the body will heal itself. And this is the one thing that's amazing about Oriental medicine is we truly believe you can heal anything in the body, given the right circumstances. And the mind is a powerful thing. So this is the other thing that's different about Oriental medicine. In Western medicine, we focus purely on the physical. So for instance, here, the gut health or the food as being like a primary issue. In Oriental medicine, the primary focus actually should be the mind. So in tiers of health, we think of right thinking, and then it's right diet, and then it might be acupuncture, and then it might be surgery, that kind of tier. So we always want to look actually to the mind first and what our thoughts are like, and it's been shown that stress does affect the gut microbiome as well. But if we don't have the right mindset and the right thoughts, it is going to cause disharmony in the body. And science has shown this with quantum physics, so how energy affects energy. So when our minds is basically energy, our thoughts are energy, and our physical body is energy. So when we have thoughts that are harming, whether they're negative for ourselves or towards others, that affects the health in the entire body. So typically a client of mine, if I see that they're doing all the right things, but they're still not getting better, I look to what their mindset is, what is their stress level, what are they thinking, because there is no separation. We like to think of our body as life in general. We like to think, I've got my relationship, I've got my job, I've got my body. We separate everything into categories, right? Even mind and body might be different. But in reality, literally everything affects everything else. So you have to address the whole body, which is body, mind, and spirit.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yep. And it also has to do with, how we flow through life. Everything, I really feel like everything is absolutely connected, and mindset is huge. And that was something that I also had to, when I was going through the throes of being sick, I'm either going to do this and be happy about it because I'm going to get my health back, or I could be mad about it. So I chose to be happy about it. And, it's just one of those things, I never want to look back. My whole life, everything has changed for the better. Does it happen right away? No, it's not a magic potion that just makes everything happen. But over the years, I have definitely seen how it really does work its way into every aspect of your life. So one more thing that I really wanted to touch on is hormones and the gut. You work with a lot of women. So do you work with all women, or?
Yeah, I have clients of every age, mostly adult women. So yeah, there's not a specific age range that I've been focusing on necessarily. So yeah.
Okay, so many of us are women, and we all go through hormones, and it triggers a lot of emotions and feelings. So what do hormones have to do with our gut?
So there's a few different ways. So first of all, some of our hormones like serotonin are actually produced in our gut. So there's that aspect where some of our hormones are actually being produced in the gut. Another way that our gut health affects our hormones is actually through inflammation. So there's three major hormones when we're looking at kind of a disharmony in a woman. So it tends to be cortisol, which is the stress hormone, the thyroid, and then the sex hormones, which is testosterone and estrogen. So they create kind of a triangle of influence on one another. When one of them's out, it affects the others. So when you're looking at a hormone imbalance, you're trying to get them all into balance around the same time, because they all will affect one another. So with our gut health, when we have inflammation, there's a few different ways that this can kind of wreak havoc on our hormones. So when we have inflammation and, maybe we're eating a lot of gluten can actually cause an autoimmune response on the thyroid. Okay. And this would affect, again, all the hormones, because all three of those are interrelated. Also, when we have chronic inflammation, it creates a cortisol response. So our body is in basically chronic flight or fight because of the inflammation. When our body is in a flight or fight response, cortisol tends to be kind of the bully of those three sets of hormones, and so they will then disrupt thyroid production, thyroid hormone production, and the sex hormones as well. Mm-hmm. So that's the biggest way that I kind of see that. And then also, if we don't have good gut health, we tend to be deficient, nutritionally deficient. Right. And a lot of these hormones or hormonal glands need to have certain nutrition in order to function optimally. So there's a few different ways that are, and then also in terms of diet, a lot of hormonal imbalances are directly connected to high sugar, high carbohydrate diets, which again has to do with that inflammatory response and high cortisol levels. We have high glucose in the blood that causes more inflammation, and it has kind of a domino effect there.
Yeah. So in general, what tips and solutions, or just things that everybody can do on an everyday basis that could really lead them in the right direction for better health?
So I think the biggest thing, I know I didn't go into deep detail about this, but I'll give the viewers an opportunity to learn more through my free gift. But the first thing is to look outside. Okay, this is like a huge tip. Look outside. What is the weather? Okay, if it is cold and snowing outside, you do not want to be eating ice cream, iced drinks, cold salads, raw vegetables. I mean, you really want to be eating like if you were outside in those elements, what would your body want to eat? Yeah. And be really eating those things. So if it's cold outside, you want to be eating warm soups, hot teas, that sort of thing. If it's hot outside, then that's the time when you eat your watermelon, your ice cream, your salads, and that kind of thing. I think that's like a huge transition for most people because we have access to all the food all the time. Mm-hmm. But if you can really shift that and think, what is it that my body would naturally want right now if I were actually allowing myself to be in relation to the elements? Right. That's a huge one. The second tip that I would really give people is to listen to their body. I think so much of our society pressures us to push through and not listen. So if your body is tired, rest, right? I think the more that we can actually rest and allow our body to do its thing, the more we have that energy to move forward rather than pushing forward from a place of deficiency. Yeah. So, if you have a headache, contemplating, did I drink enough water? Did I maybe eat something that my body doesn't like? And just really just listening to those signs and symptoms as much as you can. And then if you're having a hard time deciphering, obviously reaching out to someone who can help translate that stuff for you. I think the last thing that I would recommend is, but this one's pretty obvious, but I think most people are not doing it, is get off sugar and processed foods. Just do it. I mean, there is no health benefit to it. You might look to your friend and think, oh, they're eating it and they're fine. Why do I suffer? And I will tell you, no one is getting away with anything. No one. Even your skinny, healthy friend that's eating like crap, at some point, something's going to give, and and the manifestation will come up. No one's getting away with it. So just start now, pull it out of your diet, and be proactive in your health.
All right, great tips. Great. Thank you, Dr. Nancy. That's wonderful. So I believe that why don't you tell the viewers about the free gift? Tell them where they can go to get it.
Yeah, so they can go back, I guess, to the email that you've offered and get the link. But I'm offering my free ebook, which is How to Eat with the Seasons. So I'm going to go into a lot of detail of what that really means, because I know a lot of it probably went over everyone's head, and it's a lot easier to read it. But really the basics of how you can actually live in harmony with the seasons. It offers a few recipes as well for each season, so you can really start to implement that and see what it feels like, because I think this is something we've done as human beings our whole life, generationally. We've done it forever, until probably the Industrial Revolution or something, so it's something that we've been doing forever, but now we're not doing. So it's not modern woo-woo, right? This is something that we really need to go back to in order to find health. So I really want to encourage people to try it out. So I'm offering that free ebook.
That's awesome. And I'm going to take advantage of that too, because I love, like, that's actually, and even for our viewers, not only for you, but for our kids, it's so important to educate them and to really show them, how to get in touch with these kinds of things, and so that they do know when they're older, and then they can teach their kids, because this is something really important, I think, just in general, that we do need to be instilling in our own kids. So.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that what I also think is very empowering about it is, in this day and age, we can literally think that, there's so much chatter of like good foods and bad foods that it can be very overwhelming.
Yes.
And what's really empowering about Oriental medicine, outside of processed foods, okay, that's kind of in a different realm, but outside of that, there literally is no such thing as a good or bad food. So really learning how to adjust to the seasons of your life, of nature, allows you to see when it is appropriate to eat those foods. So even something healthy like kale, there's a time and place for that, or red meat. So some people think red meat is bad. In Oriental medicine, there's no such thing as a good or bad food. It's just knowing when you should eat it.
That's fantastic. That's
yeah.
Great. Well, thank you again. I'm so happy that you came on today and that you shared all this awesome information with our viewers. So thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we hope to see you soon.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.